What if the legendary shark from Jaws was not a shark at all, but a mosasaur? Dive into the world of these ancient sea monsters who ruled the oceans with jaws far more terrifying than any great white could hope to offer. Today, we're exploring what the seas would have been like if the star of Jaws was a mosasaur, a creature that turned the ocean depths into scenes of prehistoric horror. Join us as we unveil the might and terror of the Mosasaurus, the real-life leviathan of the deep. What would it be like? Unlike any shark or whale, mosasaurs ruled the oceans about 66 million years ago during the late Cretaceous period. They were true sea monsters, stretching up to 50 feet or 15 meters long, with powerful, streamlined bodies and massive jaws filled with sharp teeth. This creature would have been even more dangerous than the great white shark in the original story. With its incredible size and predatory skills, a mosasaur could easily take on the largest of prey, including sharks that swam the ancient seas. Unlike the great white, which strikes fear with its sudden attacks, a mosasaur's presence in the water would be a constant threat, swift, agile, and always ready to strike. The terrifying aspect of having Jaws as a mosasaur is not just its huge size, but its versatility in the water. These creatures were believed to be among the top predators of their time. They were capable of quick turns and rapid bursts of speed to catch even the fastest of fish and other marine reptiles. Think of a scene where a mosasaur, emerging from the depths, uses its long, muscular body to swim at high speeds, its wide jaw opening to reveal rows of deadly teeth, ready to bite on any creature in the sea. It would be an epic battle of ancient marine might. But where did these titanic creatures come from, and how did we manage to learn about their existence? Discovery and naming. The story of the mosasaurs starts with a discovery back in 1764, when a mysterious skull was found in a chalk quarry near Maastricht in the Netherlands. At first, people thought it was a whale's skull. It ended up in a museum in Haarlem, catching lots of eyes. A few years later, another skull popped up in the same spot. This time, a guy named Johann Leonard Hoffmann, who was a doctor, thought maybe it was a crocodile. He showed it to a biologist named Petrus Camper, who got pretty interested in it. Things got even crazier during the French Revolutionary Wars. French soldiers took over Maastricht and ended up grabbing the second skull. There's a fun story that they traded it for 600 bottles of wine, but that's probably just a legend. They sent this skull over to the National Museum of Natural History in France, where it caught the attention of a famous scientist named Georges Cuvier. In 1808, Cuvier and some other scientists figured out that this skull wasn't from a whale or a crocodile, but from something much cooler, a marine lizard, related to monitor lizards but unlike anything alive today. This was a huge deal, because back then, most people didn't even think species could go extinct. Cuvier's work helped kickstart new ways of thinking about evolution and extinction. In 1822, the creature finally got a name, Mosasaurus, also known as Mosasaurus hoffmanni, which means lizard of the Meuse, named after the river near where the skull was found. This name officially puts mosasaurs on the map in the world of science. But what was it really like? Let's dive into the real size and astonishing capabilities of these ancient predators. Early misconceptions. Back in the 1800s, scientists had some pretty wild guesses about mosasaurs. They first thought these giant marine reptiles might have been able to walk on land because some fossils hinted at flexible spines and what looked like webbed feet. In 1845, a scientist named Goldfuss even suggested that these features meant mosasaurs could roam around on land. But things took a turn in 1854 when Hermann Schlegel took a closer look. He realized those supposed claws were actually part of fully aquatic flippers. He proved that the flippers were broad and flat, designed for swimming, not walking, because they didn't have any attachment points for muscles or tendons that would be needed for walking. But despite his solid evidence, it took a while for everyone to agree. It wasn't until the 1870s, after more complete fossils were discovered in North America, that scientists finally accepted mosasaurs were purely sea creatures. Meanwhile, in the 1850s, an artist named Benjamin Waterhouse Hawkins was crafting a life-size mosasaur sculpture for the Crystal Palace Park in London. He modeled it based on what Richard Owen thought a mosasaur looked like, a sort of aquatic monitor lizard. This meant the sculpture had a blocky head, nostrils on the sides, and flippers that looked a bit like those of a lizard, complete with scales. Body size. In terms of size, Mosasaurus was kind of like the heavyweight champion of the ancient marine world, but most of what we know about it comes from just skulls. Back in 1967, a scientist named Russell suggested that the length of its jaw was about 1/10 of its total body length. Based on a really big jawbone, another researcher named Grigoriev estimated in 2014 that this mosasaur could have been 56 feet or 17 meters long. In 2014, Federico Fanti and his team tried a different approach. They thought the total length was more like 7 times the length of the skull, based on better preserved skeletons of a similar species. They figured that meant Mosasaurus was probably closer to 36 feet, or 11 meters long, and weighed about 10 metric tons. Just last year, researchers used Fanti's method on that same big Penza jaw and guessed the Mosasaur was about 39 feet, or almost 12 meters long. And then there's this one huge bone called a quadrate. It was 150% bigger than what you'd expect for this species. In 2016, a researcher named Everhart thought this could mean that there were even bigger mosasaurs out there, maybe even as long as 59 feet, or almost 18 meters. Now that we know how big they were, let's uncover how mighty a Mosasaurus bite could be. Could it really take down anything in its path? A gruesome and powerful bite. Picture this massive marine lizard with a set of jaws that could unleash incredible power. When a Mosasaurus bit down on something, it wasn't just biting. It was unleashing a crushing force that could snap bones and armor like twigs. Now, about those teeth. They were custom built for maximum damage. Mosasaurus had serrated teeth, kind of like the jagged edge of a saw. These teeth weren't just sharp, but perfect for slicing through meat. Imagine it chopping onto its prey. Once those teeth got a hold of something, they could easily tear it apart. And it wasn't just about having different types of teeth. The Mosasaurus had a whole dental toolkit right in its mouth. The slender, pointy teeth could stab into slippery flesh, making sure they didn't wriggle away. The bigger, serrated teeth were great for dealing with tougher, chunkier meats, like sea turtles or even other marine reptiles. With such a powerful bite, you might be wondering, what exactly did the Mosasaurus eat to maintain its place at the top of the food chain? What the Mosasaur ate. So, what did the Mosasaurus eat? Pretty much anything it wanted. Its diet included a wide variety of marine animals. We're talking about bony fish, sharks, squids, and even birds. Yes, birds. If they got too close to the water, they could become a quick snack. But that's not all. Mosasaurus also preyed on other marine reptiles. Imagine it going head-to-head with turtles and even other mosasaurs. Unlike some creatures that might pick at leftovers, the Mosasaurus was not a scavenger. It was a fierce predator. It had a poor sense of smell, which isn't great for sniffing out dead stuff. But it more than made up for it with its vision and those big, sharp teeth. These teeth weren't just big. They were specially shaped to cut through tough marine flesh and shells, making it easy for the Mosasaurus to chomp on its prey. But how did it hunt? Well, the Mosasaurus was likely an ambush predator. It used to hang out near the ocean's surface, using its large eyes to spot unsuspecting prey from below. Once it saw dinner, it would use its powerful body to launch a surprise attack. And the bigger the Mosasaurus, the more it sat at the top of the food chain, thanks to its diet rich in fatty prey like sea turtles. This is shown by studies of their fossils, where scientists look at carbon isotopes. Basically, the types of things it ate made it an apex predator, the boss of the ocean's food chain. We even have evidence of their eating habits from a rare fossil that includes the remains of a large fish found inside a Mosasaurus stomach. The fish was longer than the Mosasaurus's own head, showing us that they could tackle prey bigger than their mouths and would have to break their food into smaller pieces to eat it. Interestingly, there might have been a bit of family learning involved too. A fossil find suggests that a juvenile Mosasaurus was possibly taught how to hunt by an adult. They found bite marks from both a young and an adult Mosasaurus on a nautiloid, an ancient squid-like creature. This could mean that adult mosasaurs taught their young how to hunt. just like how some animals teach their young in the wild today. And while they had their pick of the ocean buffet, did mosasaurs get along with each other? Or was the ancient ocean a battleground for these colossal creatures? Aggressive behavior. Now, mosasaurs were creatures that didn't shy away from a fight, even with its own kind. There's some pretty dramatic fossil evidence that shows these giant marine lizards got into some serious tussles. For instance, scientists found a partial skeleton of a mosasaurus with a story to tell. This particular skeleton had all sorts of damage: cuts, breaks, and even a tooth from another mosasaurus stuck in its skull. The really telling part was that none of these injuries had healed, which suggests this mosasaurus didn't survive the encounter. It looks like it died from a fatal blow to the head delivered by another of its kind during a fierce battle. But not all these prehistoric fights were to the death. Another mosasaurus skeleton shows a different scenario. This one had a tooth from another mosasaurus embedded right under its eye. But around this wound, there were signs of healing. So this mosasaurus survived the attack, living to swim another day. Some scientists think these battles weren't just about aggression. They might have also been part of mating behavior, kind of like some modern lizards that bite each other's heads during courtship. It's a rough way to show affection, but that might have been part of Mosasaurus's life. These ancient sea monsters might have grappled their opponents by the head, similar to how modern crocodiles fight today. This head grappling could explain why so many of the injuries are found around the skull area. Interestingly, many of these battle-scarred fossils belong to younger or not fully grown mosasaurs, suggesting that attacks on smaller, less experienced individuals were common. And some of these fights might have even led to cannibalism. Yes, that's right. Some mosasaurs might have eaten their opponents as a result of these aggressive encounters. But who else shared these waters with the mighty Mosasaurus? The animals it lived with. These predators lived alongside other giant marine predators like the Tylosaurus and Prognathodon, both of which were top-tier hunters themselves. Picture this underwater scene. Tylosaurus, stretching up to 40 feet long, and Prognathodon, which could grow just as big, all sharing the same waters. You might wonder, how did they avoid stepping on each other's toes, or fins, so to speak? Well, a study from 2013 dived into this by examining their diets and habitats through the lens of carbon isotope analysis, a method that helps scientists understand what and where these creatures ate. It turns out, while Mosasaurus and Prognathodon were both chasing down marine reptiles, their tastes in prey and their hunting grounds overlapped only a little bit. Prognathodon had these strong teeth that were perfect for crunching on tough prey like turtles, while Mosasaurus, with its slightly less sturdy teeth, had a more varied menu, so they went after different foods. Despite their different diets, life in the ancient seas wasn't always calm. Evidence shows there were violent clashes between these massive creatures. Consider a young Mosasaurus receiving a fatal blow to the head from the ram-like snout of a Tylosaurus. This kind of attack mirrors behaviors seen in modern animals, such as dolphins using their beaks to fend off sharks. This wasn't likely a random encounter, but a calculated move, possibly during a hunt or over a territorial dispute. But despite their dominance, the reign of the Mosasaurs came to an abrupt end. What catastrophic events led to the downfall of these ancient sea titans? Extinction. At the end of the Cretaceous period, Mosasaurs were at the top of their game in terms of evolution, but despite their success, their extinction happened suddenly. During the late Maastrichtian stage, the world's sea level started to drop. This big change drained the continents of their nutrient-rich waters, messing up the nutrient flow and ocean currents, which reduced the available living spaces for mosasaurs. To adapt, these giant marine lizards started moving into more open waters. The very last fossils we find of mosasaurs are from just before a major global event called the Cretaceous Paleogene Boundary, KPG. This was a tough time on Earth that also wiped out the dinosaurs. In Missouri, for instance, scientists have found mosasaur fossils right at this boundary, damaged by intense geological forces like tsunamis and earthquakes triggered by a massive asteroid hitting Earth. This catastrophic event not only caused massive waves and fierce storms, but also blocked out the sun, collapsing the food chain in the ocean. Any mosasaurs that initially survived by diving deeper would have eventually starved as their food sources vanished. With all this drama from millions of years ago, there's no denying that if Jaws were about mosasaurs, it would bring an entirely different prehistoric level of terror to the story. If you enjoyed diving into the prehistoric world of the mosasaurs with us, don't forget to hit that like button. What surprised you most learning about the Mosasaurus? Tell us in the comments below. If you'd like to hear about a specific topic on our channel, please let us know. Paleoverse aims to provide the most interesting topics regarding dinosaurs, paleontology, and more. Thank you to all of our amazing viewers, and special shout out to our subscribers. If you're new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button for more fascinating journeys into the past and all the epic stories of Earth's incredible creatures. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.